What's up guys, my name is Justin. Welcome back to the channel today, and we are back to talk about a little bit of a recap from this past weekend's iRacing Daytona 24. Wow, there's a lot to unpack from this one. First of all, I apologize for looking like absolute garbage. My schedule the past 3 days has been all manner of messed up to make this thing work and to get my sleep schedule right and to be ready to go to drive this thing, but we made it but I'll get into that in a second. I just want to thank everyone for all your support, all your help through this, everyone that was excited about the stream. I apologize that it didn't happen, unfortunately. In some serious PC upgrades right now, and big thanks to Spencer and Tyler for helping me to get some of that nailed down, but unfortunately did not have quite the desired effect. I knew this going in, but apparently rain on iRacing is one hell of a thing, and will take down even the most supercomputer with the smartest of people behind it. So I didn't have a chance, as it turned out. There was no amount of upgrades I could do quick enough to make me viable in the rain with what we had. So you live and learn. Maybe that'll be a hindrance in the future, but I still plan on upgrading anyways because I still have all the desire to do iRacing that I have the last 11 and a half years and still continue to hopefully chug on. So anyways, big thanks to Spencer and Tyler. We did a GPU, a graphics card, did a new power supply up from 600 watts to 1,000 watts, and that was a huge help as well. There's still more that needs to be done, as it turns out. I got a brand new CPU processor and a brand new, what's the other thing I got? I'm trying to think of what I'm getting. CPU, a brand new cooler, fan, and some new RAM, some new memory. So doubled the size of the memory. That should be all good. Not getting into that right now. I need some cool down from computer building and stuff. A big shout out to my mom as well. She's really smart at that stuff. She helped me a lot. Basically, she just did the damn thing because I'm useless at that. But she put the thing together and really made it so that everything worked smoothly, and we got everything done in about 2 hours. So that was a big success. But we're gonna have to go give my poor PC a little more surgery in a couple weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully, we'll have some improved video quality in the future. But for now, we got what we got. Unfortunately, it just wasn't quick enough for the full graphic experience during the D24. So, anyways, onto the race itself. We had several hurdles we had to overcome as a team. My team, the 099 Porsche 911 GT3 in the GT3 class. The original plan was to go with myself, Ethan Gregory, Anthony Nadell, and Spencer Chisnell. And that started out with its own caveat. I picked the Friday night time slot several weeks ago because I wasn't exactly sure when my work Christmas party was going to fall, which weekend of January. I know it's past Christmas, long story, video for another day if someone cares about that. But unfortunately, I didn't know when that was going to fall, and to make myself as available as possible for the entirety of the race, hopefully, I chose the Friday night split, which is the first one of the 4 options for a 24-hour race. And the problem with that came to be when everybody talked about their availability for this race, whether it was work or other family stuff going on or just needing to take a nap after they got home from work. I ended up being the only one available for like the first 4 hours of the event. So I had to come home from work Friday. I actually left work a little bit early and get home, make sure everything was up to date, make sure everything was running. We were good to go, registered. And then I had originally supposed to be a quad stint, 4 hours, but ended up only being 3 because we moved some stuff around a little bit, which I'll talk about again in a second. So I ran the first 3 hours of the race, and I was good with that, plenty good. Like I said, the original plan was to reach them, hopefully, if they could each give me 4 hours of drive time in 2-hour chunks, that would be sufficient. I felt like I was good for 12 hours of driving in this. This was my 36th iRacing Enduro. We started all the way back in 2015 with the Daytona 24, my first 24-hour event right off the bat. The first iRacing 24-hour event, that was the first year, 2015, that they had the ability to do long races. Everything else was limited to 2.4 hours previously. So the 24 hours was a great event back then. I learned the hard way. I crashed the car, and a teammate crashed the car within like the first 5 hours, so we were done. Very short race. That was all the way back in the Roof GT3. The Roof RT12 track was the car. And I don't even remember what the other cars were. The HPD was the prototype because they just retired the Riley because the HPD was pretty much brand new. And then the other GT3 was like the BMW Z4 GT3 or something. But that was ever so long ago. But anyways, it was kind of nice to come full circle. This is the first time since then in a multi-class race that offered a prototype that I've driven a GT car. I always drive the fastest car, just kind of like controlling passing, but I felt like with the rain possibility, I could learn rain a little bit better around this place in a GT car. And that ended up being true, it ended up paying off. I felt like I was very, very comfortable and very ready for the rain. My PC just was not. So Anyways, I had the first 3 hours. I'll stop rambling and start actually telling you about the race. I had the first 3 hours and it went very smoothly. I had no incidents the first 2 hours. And then about midway through the third hour, around lap 75, I think it was lap 77, off of turn 1, I was just letting everybody go throughout the race, not moving over. You're not supposed to move over. But if someone showed a nose or a dive, especially a prototype in a faster class, by all means have your corner. I was not fighting anybody. It's a long race, obviously. And I had moved up to like 10th or 12th in the first 3 hours of this race. From 20th on the grid, there were 27 GT3s. And coming off turn 1, the prototype got to my right side through the S's before the International Horseshoe. And I felt like I'd left enough room to the right for that car to go, and I was just going to let them go and tuck in next to and behind them through turn 1, or off turn 1 to turn 2. And we made contact. I turned in, and it ended up being net code, but I didn't know that at the time, and they didn't leave me as much room as they claimed to on the curb. There was more room for them to go to the right, but it looked like from the view that I just turned into their door. But it ended up being net code. We had about a foot of net code, which really sucks and doesn't help measures, obviously, but I still felt like I left enough room. But anyways, bounced off of that car and went over to the left-hand wall. Those of you are familiar with Daytona, off turn 1, there's a wall that separates the pit exit lane from the racetrack. And when I say we got like literal inches from backing this car into the wall in the first 3 hours of the race, which I would have felt awful about, of course. I still don't really know, thinking back at it, and I've gone back and watched it a couple times, I don't know how I didn't hit the wall. It was that close. And so I barely scraped over that, missed another prototype that was coming by on the right as I was flying off the track. And my only course of action from that position was to cut the International Horseshoe and rejoin basically before the kink, which was the safer option, was the smarter option. And that's what you need in these long races, is the smart option, not the fast option. And so it was a very safe rejoin. Only picked up a 1x penalty for that, thankfully. That was my first incident of the day. I don't really think it was my fault. That was a racing deal, in my opinion. I could have obviously just backed out more, but that would have been, again, a danger to the prototype behind us. He could have definitely given me more room, but that's how these things go. So that was a 1x, but it did mean because I cut the course, we had a 40-second stop and hold. So we gave up not quite a lap of time doing that, probably 3/4 of a lap, but I was already 20 or 30 seconds behind. So the leader in GT3 at that point came out 15 or 20 seconds behind me, but we were back in the 20s again as far as running position. There was already a lot of death. And then we got to, I got out of the car about 15 minutes later after my 3-hour stint, and pretty much immediately went to bed because this was my chunk for the next several hours. I didn't drive for like 8 more hours, so that was my chunk to get some sleep. So I slept for about 4 hours and then got up to see how the guys were doing. They were still running well up in the top 10-ish, and we're moving forwards as people had issues. We weren't sure when the rain was exactly going to come, especially since the rain chances were iffy and iRacing's rain system is far from perfect. So we were trying to plan around that, but we didn't have a concrete plan or anything, unfortunately. We ended up getting any rain at all, which was good for my computer's sake because I could drive whenever. Bad for our prep's sake. We spent a lot of time on rain prep, and again, me especially, but again, it didn't end up playing a real factor in how the race turned out, I don't think, for us at least, but I'll talk about the other teams when I finish our team's story. But so anyway, so I slept for about 4 hours, got up around 12:30 in the morning, just to check how the guys were doing, see if anything was needed, how we were going. And that was all good, but of course, as soon as I checked on them, I started worrying, got the nerves up, heat of the moment thing. I had a really hard time falling back asleep for like another 3 hours, so I just basically sat there listening to the cars as I left my TV on because I was stupid. But anyway, so I really only slept about 4 hours. And I got back up about 5:30 in the morning, and we had, I guess, about 11 hours of race left to go, or 12 hours, not quite. What time did I get? 11 or 12 hours left. I planned to sit there and either drive or spot for the rest of it, which I did successfully. But so I drove again in some of the dark, still no rain, didn't have any real issues. I did get ass packed in the second horseshoe, the Western Horseshoe, by a prototype that had literally no patience. Again, considering we're halfway into a 24-hour race, this guy was up my butt, and typical prototype thing, no patience, don't wait till cut under on the exit, which you're supposed to do in a prototype because the GT car needs the whole racetrack to carry speed. Prototype obviously much more agile and accelerates better, so they can just go offline and go where you're not. That didn't happen. I got run up the back, so that was my 4x for the day. That's put me on 5x, and that was the only instance I had. I didn't have any mistakes or off tracks or anything, and I was very thankful for that. So 5x isn't great. I especially want those 4 back because they were pretty pointless and unnecessary. But again, something that wasn't my fault. And then, yeah, so after that, let's see, what else happened? Nothing really happened that was major. We didn't have any serious damage that had to be repaired, I don't think, until quite late in the race. Everybody was doing a phenomenal job, even in traffic, but my four guys, oh, I forgot to mention because Dave joined us pretty late in the going, just because he didn't have anything going on, was not sure if he was going to be able to run fully with a league race that he had going on and stuff, so he joined us for a couple hours, which was a huge relief, so thanks to Dave as well. But he was running with, I don't know, maybe 8 hours to go or so, roughly 6 to 8 hours to go. And he ended up getting taken out. We were running in P3. My night stint that I just talked about, I spent most of that leading GT3. We were in great position. We're running really well. We made it through most of the night, and we're coming up on sunrise eventually. And once Dave was in the car, though, we were running P3. The two cars in front of us had some pretty fast guys in there that we were just trying to stay in touch with, and we were still in the lead lap. We were about 40 or 45 seconds behind, but running in third, so it was all very close. At that point, there were 6 cars within a lap and a half of the overall, or the class lead, which was crazy for that long into an enduro race. So Dave got taken out by a GTP LMDH car that ended up winning the race overall, actually, but sent it into the kink. So the kink is flat in all 3 classes of car, but a GT3 really needs to go flat, needs the whole racetrack, needs an open entry through the center to the inside curb, and needs your exit curb. Because if you try to pinch it too much, you're going to spin out. If you don't use enough wheel, obviously you're going to go flying off into the West Horseshoe. So GTP decided to send it up the inside of Dave in traffic for no reason, from way too far back. At Dave's turn-in point, he was still clear, but the closing rate of GTP meant he got hit and net-coated in the left rear wheel, unfortunately. It was not that hard of a hit, but the net code hit from the unexpected contact that the sim doesn't know how to predict did a bunch of left rear suspension damage. Thankfully, Dave was able to limp it back around, but that was a 7-minute repair, and we fell, I think, 5 laps down because of that. So we were back to 6th or 7th, 6th-ish, 6th, 7th overall, or again, sorry, in class, in GT3 class, with about 5 hours to go or so. So that was a big hit. We knew we weren't going to make up that many spots and be in contention for the win, which sucked, but we did still have something to fight for. We were still aiming for that top 5, and there was a lot of race to go. So after Dave was done, Ethan ran a single fuel run, and he was tired and exhausted mentally and physically, so he was done, which was fine with me. I was good to drive. Whatever I needed to left, I still felt pretty good. And then Spencer drove a double, and then I ended up finishing with a double. And we talked, during Ethan and Spencer's stint, joking, obviously, about how a couple of these prototypes had cost us a lot of time through the incidents with me and with Dave throughout this race. And how it would be really nice if we were running 6th and one of them took out one of the front 5 guys and gave us a chance back to end up with the top 5 after all the work we put in and all the great driving that my guys had done. So we joked about that for like an hour, and then eventually it actually happened. The 5th place car, was it the 5th place car? I think it was the same prototype that hit me in the S's the first time in hour 3 with like 3 hours to go or 2 hours to go, somewhere in there. Just absolutely sent one into the bus stop. I mean, as bad as the one on Dave was, this was 100 times worse somehow. I don't really know how, but like from 4 or 5 car lengths back, I thought it was an equipment failure. It looked so bad. But apparently it was just a mass misjudgment and an overreaction by the guy to not just wreck yourself. He thought he could make it, whatever. And the poor Ferrari that was running, I think it was 5th, but it might have been 4th, was running in 5th, just get blown up. I mean, hit like with 100-mile-an-hour difference of closing speed on entry to the bus stop. Turn-in point is, I don't know, 120. And this prototype seemed to be going 170. Like, it was a huge hit, knocked the rear end off, and unfortunately this Ferrari could not control the car at this point as you're being punted through the bus stop and nosed into the wall on the left side through the middle of the bus stop. Blew up, could not drive back, had to tow, had a lot of damage repair. We were like 4 laps behind them, I think, and they had roughly a 10-minute repair, so they came back out eventually, but they were now 3 or 4 laps behind us. So we got our 5th place back. Spencer finished his stint, and then we were like a lap and a half ahead of what became 6th, the new 6th place car behind us. And that was up to me, as it comes to so many times in these enduro races over the years. Number 36 was just as eventful as the rest of them. And it came down to me for 2 hours to go, and I didn't make any mistakes. Traffic was abysmal. The last 2 hours of this race were more stressful than the 5 hours I'd run previous. I came out after Spencer got out with just over 2 hours to go, like 2 hours, 5 minutes, so I knew I'd have to make 2 pit stops, the last one just being a splash and go. and I came out in a hornet's nest of GT3 lap traffic. And none of them are on the same lap, but they're racing like it's for the win on the last lap, and there's still 2 hours to go, and they're not for position. They're like 15 laps apart on track, and they're sending dive bombs and overtaking into the bus stop, which you don't really do unless it's something that means something. You're not passing random cars into the bus stop, especially the same class cars, because it is a very difficult corner to get into in a GT car with pace. And they're just racing each other so hard, and prototype traffic is coming breaking us up, not doing us any favors, and unfortunately, my hindsight being dumb, I wish I would have done something different, but we chose to drove the Porsche because my thought process was from previous enduro experience and all the death I've gone through in my life in this, that being rear engine would help us if we did have some kind of frontal collision and impact and damage. We want to have that motor still be at 100% power. We don't want to have to worry about engine repairs or anything, and keeping the back part of the car clean is much easier than the front usually. Of course, I get ass packed and that all changes, but the car was perfectly fine. But I mean, these guys were just driving insane, and so I came into pit road with like an hour and 5 minutes to go, still needing one more pit stop, and I was so relieved. I spent an hour in traffic, in GT traffic, just driving like hooligans and monkeys. It was insane. I honestly couldn't believe it, but thankfully we came out into some clean air, ran a nice easy stint, had no pressure, just had to bring the thing home. Anytime, again, same deal as the beginning, basically back in that mindset. Anytime someone shows a nose, be my guest. You can have it your corner, not racing anybody, not fighting anybody, because I had time to give up. My last hour and a bit was very, very slow, but very conservative, and again, no mistakes. Thankfully, didn't have any 1X incidents that were my fault the entire race, so that was good. I drove about 7.5 hours roughly, and I did 222 laps, which was the most on my team, but all 4 of my other drivers, Dave, Spencer, Anthony, and Ethan, were phenomenal. I mean, all 4 of them put in the prep, put in the time to be prepared and be ready to rock and roll, and they did amazing. All 4 of them definitely stepped up to the plate and ran an amazing race. We didn't have, other than the damage that Dave got from that incident, the 7 minutes required, I don't think we had any damage to the car that wasn't able to just be fixed quickly during a normal pit stop cycle. So that damage Dave got, and then my 40-second hold in hour 3 with no damage, were the only unscheduled pit stops we had the whole race. So I think we ended up with 58X as a group, 56 somewhere in there, which is phenomenal. Again, it was like 5 for me, 10 for Dave. He got hit a couple times for 4Xs. That shouldn't have been his fault. And then just minor off tracks for the rest of the guys. Nothing crazy, but just a very well-driven, well-organized, well-managed race by all of them. So I'm so incredibly thankful to have had such a great team, so incredibly proud of all of them. They all drove amazing, and I would drive another enduro with any of them. That said, probably not going to have any more with me driving for the rest of this year. I'd really like to focus on Daytona and focus on other things I'm doing now with the PCC community and whatnot. But we'll see. I always want to leave the door open just in case I'm needed as a super sub or an emergency driver or something like that. But the thought process right now is I'm done with enduros until at least Daytona next year, and then we'll reevaluate. I still want to win Daytona really, really badly, so I'm not counting that out. We'll see if my upgraded PC for real next time can handle rain in that capacity with that many cars. We'll see. But yeah, that was pretty much the story of our race. Very, very happy with a 5th place finish. In the end, it's bittersweet because we lost our chance to try to win, but at the end of the day, the 2 guys that were in front of us when Dave had his issue and we were in 3rd didn't end up having any more issues, and honestly, the guys that they finished out with were running faster than we could run anyways, so we would have never caught them and had a chance. Again, who knows what could happen if circumstances are different. We're putting more pressure on them, but those 2 went blow for blow in front of us, and they ended up finishing 1-2, separated by less than a minute after 24 hours of racing. So at best, we would have finished 3rd, but the 2 guys behind us were also very fast, so it would have been 3rd or 4th. So if you would have told me the maximum for us would have been 3rd or 4th and we finished 5th, that's a good day. I'm not going to complain. That's a very, very good result. Everybody was very pleased with that. As for the other 2 teams, we did have a GT3 team of kind of newer or people that just wanted to give this a whirl and see what enduro racing is all about, because while this is my 36th enduro, I recognize that there are people on JKR and other things that have never run one. They want to see what it's all about, and they know Daytona, the best of the road courses. Maybe they don't know Sebring or Spa or Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta very well. I just want to see what's up, see what this is all about, and see what it takes to get to the end. So we did have a team of that. They launched in the same Friday night session we did. That was another Porsche GT3 with a much better paint scheme than the garbage that I ended up with because trading paints is dumb. That was Tyler, that was Nico, that was Dante, and that was Nick Robinson. So those guys put in a great performance. Again, they had their issues. They started towards the front, had a lot of chaos and death and stuff. They were in a much lower split. We were in split 5 of the 21. I don't remember what split they were, but a lower split. But I knew it was going to be an uphill battle for them. It's a huge undertaking, and it's so difficult for these enduro races to jump in and figure out what you need to get to the end. Even just finishing, as Carl Sampson said, is a huge accomplishment. Getting to the end of the race with a car that still works in 24 hours, with all the technical failures that you can have on iRacing, people forgetting to race, sleeping through alarms, real life coming up, car damage from other people, as we saw in my split with GTPs and LMP2s. It's a huge undertaking. It's a huge, huge thing, and just to get to the finish is an amazing accomplishment. But they battled back through all that adversity, all the death they encountered, all the death they were involved in, honestly. They did have a drive-through at one point. I think they ended with about 110x total, somewhere in there. So that just shows you how clean my squad was, with roughly half of that. But they did make it to the finish, and they ended up with an 8th place finish, which they were very happy with, and I was extremely proud of them. Again, it was, I think all of them, I try to think, I don't think Dante's ever run one. Nico might have run one last year at Nürburgring with my squad. I don't know if Nick had run one years ago previously, but his first with our group, and I don't know if Tyler had run one either previously, but very little enduro experience compared to the experience that Dave and I brought to the table. And then Spencer and Anthony ran 3rd last year in a different GT3 when I ran LMDH last year. But yeah, and Ethan for our team had only run Watkins last year with Steve. So vastly less experience on the other Porsche team, but they came back with an 8th place finish, which I was incredibly proud of them. They were all very happy with the result and glad to see the finish, so that was wonderful. So huge congrats to them. And then in the morning, the LMDH crew did the early Saturday morning split. Let's see, that was Alex, that was Carl Sampson, that was Luca, that was CR2 Christopher, and that was Ian Griffiths. So those 5 guys took on the LMDH, and they did get rain. None of the first splits got rain, but they did get heavy rain for a huge chunk of the race, and so they were really in the deep end. Glad that all their computers survived. They put in a lot of prep to learn the LMDH car in the rain, which is very, very difficult, even with the new sticky glue tires that those things have. They were definitely on the back foot as far as survival. They had early trouble, a couple of meatballs, but it sounds like basically everybody did, other than the top split, really. They definitely had their share of issues, of course, but they rallied. They never gave up. They were way behind, but as people kept having issues, it sounds like basically every single LMDH in their split had a meatball at some point from serious damage. So they kept going, kept trucking, never gave up, made sure they were still hanging around and were as safe as they could be. Pretty much everybody had issues and spins and mistakes, but that's what these are all about, especially in that torrential rain. I think Carl said, and a couple of them said at some points they could not even see where they were going. The spray was so bad, it was so wet. So I'm incredibly proud of them, and they ended up finishing 5th as well. So 3 JKR teams in this year's Daytona 24. We got 2 top 5s and an 8th, so 3 top 10s. That's a huge win. That's a huge accomplishment for everybody involved. I just want to congratulate those guys as well on their great day in the top 5 finish. And thanks to each of the drivers. What does that make us? That makes us 5, 4, and 5. That's 14 guys from JKR. That's roughly half of the people we have in there that participated this year in the race. And we got great finishes out of it. So everybody put in a ton of laps for testing, giving me feedback on setups. We had great setups. Not the fastest setups ever per my fashion, but they were very safe, very reliable and stable, and I'm very proud of that they were able to get these guys home to the finish line. But thanks to everybody that gave me setup feedback, did some testing, asked questions, made sure this was going to go as smoothly as these things can go, because there are certainly clusters at times. But huge thanks to everybody that put in effort. And like I said, we gotta get started on Bathurst prep. I won't be driving, but Bathurst I think is in like 4 or 5 weeks. So we were getting to that point. Maybe it's even less than that. Maybe it's 3 or 4 weeks, but it's time to get in full enduro season for sure. But now we got some people that have some experience under their belt, and hopefully we have another great enduro season with whoever our teams end up being throughout the year. And hopefully it's a lot of fun. I will get my PC fixed and updated sometime in the coming weeks. And then hopefully, even if I'm not driving, if one of our teams is running, I can go stream their race, especially if it's not a 24-hour race. If it's a 12, I definitely can go stream that and show off their skills and how their race goes. So that would be a lot of fun, even if I'm not driving. So let me know if you want to see that below. Let me know if you want to watch from almost like a spectator or spotter type of view, an enduro race that I can stream on my channel. So let me know. But yeah, that's Daytona 24 as a wrap and a semi-quick recap, 24 minutes, 25 seconds of your time. So hope it was enjoyable. But again, just a big thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of you for putting up with the shenanigans, with the streaming and the not streaming. And I'm sorry to disappoint. I just couldn't make it happen physically and then reliably without putting the car in danger, just in case things went really wrong with what my computer could handle. So that was unfortunate, but we made it to the end and we got great results out of it. So thank you all so much for watching. Going to be a great year again, a great year of racing, road and oval, maybe even some formula, maybe even some dirt, hint, hint, we'll see. But lots of great content coming up. Back tomorrow with normal racing schedule. We have Proto GT, Mid-Ohio, Gavin and I ran. Still having some issues with that video, but hopefully it's going to be up by tomorrow. So go check that one out. That was a great race, a lot of fun. So back to that for tomorrow and the rest of the week. And we'll be on to what's next. So again, thank you all so much. It means the world to me that you're all so supportive and give me so much love, and everything that we do is such a success with so much positive support behind it. I am so incredibly blessed and so thankful for you all. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day and a great week. And thank you for giving me so much love, and thank you for supporting our 3 teams that we had. And we'll be on to what's next. So until next time, as always, bye.